In the midst of a heavy Siberian snowstorm, the headquarters of Barefoot stands bleak and imposing, its gray warehouses lined up under the dim glow of yellow street lamps. The cold, uninviting structures dominate the landscape, except for one, the bird cave. This living quarter for Barefoot's higher-ups resembles a mansion, complete with a semicircular balcony and glass doors spilling light into the icy night. The wrought iron gate stands open, guarded by 2 sentries clad in heavy cold-weather gear, each armed with AK-47s. Inside, the atmosphere is far warmer. The room is grand with high ceilings, an ornate chandelier hanging above, and a roaring fireplace casting flickers of light and heat. Beluga Kozlov, a member of Barefoot's strategic planning team, sits comfortably on a plush sofa, his presence both intimidating and relaxed. He takes a swig from a bottle of Russian vodka, the liquid disappearing into his heavily scarred mouth, sharp teeth like those of a shark briefly flashing. Tattoos of soft leaves climb up his throat, hinting at the dangerous world he inhabits. Dressed in a gray-blue pinstripe double-breasted suit, the black shirt underneath is casually unbuttoned, revealing a muscular chest. Empty bottles and shot glasses litter the table before him, signs of a long night. He leans back, one leg draped over the other, his posture dismissive as he questions the purpose of his guest's visit. Opposite him sits Vincent, a heavily tattooed man with long black hair who once tattooed Sion in his youth. His boredom is palpable as he lounges against the arm of the sofa, the apathy in his demeanor clashing with the seriousness of his words. A massive, expressionless bodyguard with white hair stands behind him, like a silent pillar of strength. Vincent, his voice calm yet edged with warning, remarks on the gravity of the situation, noting that Beluga should be able to sense it just from the look on his face. The tension rises as Vincent's expression hardens, shifting from bored to steely. He speaks of the director's fury, reminding Beluga of the professional courtesy once expected between their organizations. His words imply that Barefoot has overstepped, that the Bears have forgotten their place. Beluga, unfazed, takes another long swig of vodka before retorting with a cutting insult, clearly unbothered by the growing tension. But before the situation escalates further, a voice from behind interrupts. Calm, deliberate, and holding a book in hand, Sasha Denisov, Barefoot's tactical training instructor, steps forward. His large frame and sharp, pince-nez glasses give him an air of authority as he explains that the friction in Korea was unavoidable, a mere consequence of the mission. Dressed in suspenders over his shirt, Sasha carries himself with the air of someone who wishes to smooth over the situation, but with enough physical presence to suggest he's not easily pushed. Vincent's eyes narrow as he half turns to address Sasha, dismissing his explanation as absurd. He sharply counters that the situation escalated far beyond what could be considered minor, reminding Sasha that Dmitri, Barefoot's second-in-command, had been involved. Vincent challenges the notion that such a high-level figure's involvement was merely coincidental, casting doubt on Barefoot's intentions. The room, warm with the glow of the fire, is thick with unspoken threats as both sides weigh each other's words, the air brimming with the potential for violence. A private jet slices through the night sky, its engines humming quietly as it travels. Inside the tense room below, Vincent remarks pointedly about Barefoot's strongest operative, the infamous Bare Knuckles. At that very moment, seated aboard the jet high above them, is Igor Medvedev, the towering leader of Barefoot, also known as Bare Fist, or by his nickname, Lee Min-ho Bare Knuckles. His colossal frame barely fits into the airplane seat, his muscles rippling beneath his skin, veins bulging like iron cables. He appears almost too large for the plane, an indomitable force of raw power in human form. Back in the room, Vincent's comment ignites Sasha Denisov's anger. Fury flashing in his eyes, Sasha begins to shout, his voice booming that Bare Knuckles' deployment was not up to them, before he's suddenly cut off. Vincent's bodyguard, a massive figure draped in the heavy solemnity of a priest's habit, steps forward, towering over even Sasha, who is no small man himself. The bodyguard, clutching a set of rosary beads in one hand, calmly yet forcefully tells Sasha that's enough, mocking him as such a small guy. The insult makes Sasha's blood boil. Stripping off his glasses, his expression twists with rage, his pride wounded. But before he can act, a sharp pain flashes across Sasha's cheek. He freezes, his gaze shifting down to the thin, near-invisible wire that had sliced him without warning. Beluga Kozlov, seated nearby, watches in amusement, his eyes gleaming red as he reaches out to touch the wire, now visible and shimmering faintly in the dim light. Kozlov's lips curl into a grin, and with a quiet fascination, he draws everyone's attention to the new arrivals. Overhead, perched on the upper floor, are the shadowy figures of the dead mansion children, who have appeared unnoticed above the heated confrontation. Sasha, annoyed by the sudden escalation, tilts his head toward the children and smirks, sarcastically muttering about child maltreatment. Undeterred by their appearance, he rises to his feet with the air of someone ready to settle things here and now. With a slow, deliberate motion, he draws a 6-shot revolver from his waistband, gripping the handle tightly. He taunts his opponents, suggesting that the loser might as well knock on their own coffin lid once this is over. Just as his words hang in the air, one of the dead mansion children leaps down from the upper floor, landing gracefully on the back of the sofa where Kozlov sits. Kozlov watches the child with a spark of surprise, remarking on the boy's audacity, but the dead mansion child doesn't even glance his way, moving with calm detachment. Vincent, however, fixes the boy with a glare of irritation. He demands to know why the child disobeyed orders by coming down without permission. The boy, now standing close to Vincent, leans in and whispers something faintly, his voice barely a breath. The words cause Vincent's expression to harden instantly. His earlier annoyance vanishes, replaced by something far darker. The boy reveals chilling news. The director, along with everyone else at Dead Mansion, is completely unreachable. At the ominous Dead Mansion, a figure stands, katana in hand, its blade resting against the ground. Cyrillic tattoos cover his hand in the signature Dead Mansion style, with a distinct X-shaped scar slashing through them, marking him with a dangerous history. At his feet lie the director's grill and crucifix, symbolic relics now discarded and abandoned in this bleak moment. Meanwhile, back at Barefoot's headquarters, a henchman rushes toward Beluga Kozlov, urgency sharp in his voice. Beluga, lounging casually on the sofa with a gun in hand, barely shifts his gaze, visibly irritated by the man's flustered demeanor. Without moving from his relaxed position, he questions the henchman, demanding to know what could possibly warrant such panic. As the man leans in and whispers hurriedly into Beluga's ear, the usually unflappable Beluga freezes. His eyes widen in disbelief, shock rippling through him. He stares at the henchman, disbelief plastered across his face, and demands that the man repeat himself, unable to fully process the gravity of what he's just heard. The hushed tones and visible shock draw the attention of the Dead Mansion guests, their curiosity piqued, their unease growing. They exchange uneasy glances, concern simmering as they watch the two men's silent exchange. Beluga, recovering his composure, looks directly at the henchman, his voice low and tense, asking the dreaded question, "What happened to Captain Igor?" As the sun rises over Korea, its warm rays filter through the windows of the school building, illuminating the corridor where Jang Hyun approaches Sion. Jang Hyun, with his tall and lean frame, black hair, and a casual, unassuming smile, confidently walks toward him. Noticing Sion's distinctive blonde hair and blue eyes, Jang Hyun remarks that he must be the one everyone has been talking about, the so-called legend. His voice carries a mix of nervous excitement as he admits he had heard intimidating rumors about Sion. But now, standing before him, Sion doesn't seem nearly as terrifying as he imagined. As Jang Hyun speaks, he wraps a cloth around his fist, fashioning makeshift knuckle protectors, his expression relaxed yet focused. Sion, sensing a faint ominous aura surrounding Jang Hyun, like a smoky, witch-like mist, wonders if this is the source of the strange energy he had felt earlier. Despite this, Jang Hyun seems far less threatening than expected. Before Sion can fully evaluate him, Jang Hyun suddenly launches a swift high kick, aiming directly for Sion's face. The unexpected attack forces Sion to raise his arms just in time to block, though the force of the kick reverberates through his body like a hammer blow. As Sion staggers slightly, shocked by the strength behind the strike, Jang Hyun calmly lowers his leg, an amused smile playing on his lips. He expresses surprise that Sion managed to block the kick, admitting that he had hoped to end the fight with just that one move. Seizing the moment, Sion counters with a punch, but Jang Hyun effortlessly counters, using the momentum to flip Sion over with remarkable ease. A look of pure disbelief flashes across Sion's face, panic setting in as he realizes how easily his opponent has outmaneuvered him. Jang Hyun, grinning wider now, taunts Sion, telling him that the more he struggles, the more pain he'll endure. Sion quickly recovers, creating some distance between them, but Jang Hyun remains composed and unshaken. With a smirk, he voices his disappointment, expecting more from the legendary masterpiece of Dead Mansion. He then hurls another powerful kick towards Sion, mocking him for not even being as strong as Big Daddy. Though Sion barely manages to block the blow aimed at his face, the impact sends a sharp pain through his forearms, leaving him grimacing and more wary of Jang Hyun's overwhelming strength. As Sion reels from the previous blow, still struggling to regain his footing, Jang Hyun wastes no time. His next kick arcs from above with brutal force, his face obscured by shadows, giving him a menacing, villainous look. His voice cold and commanding, he tells Sion to stop resisting and just stay down. The impact of the kick reverberates through the school corridor, the sound of the strike loud and fierce, underscoring its power. However, this time, Sion doesn't crumble. Jang Hyun's expression shifts, surprised, as Sion speaks, dismissing any mention of Big Daddy and questioning why Jang Hyun has suddenly appeared. In a swift motion, Sion grabs Jang Hyun's leg with one hand, his other arm gripping the collar of Jang Hyun's shirt. A grin spreads across Sion's face as he reminds Jang Hyun of his title, the Legend of Dead Mansion. With a playful tone, Sion dismisses any comparison to uncles or Big Daddy, and with a powerful tug, he yanks Jang by the collar, hurling him toward the nearby window. Glass shatters as Jang's body slams into the window, the night sky visible through the broken pane, stars shining against the backdrop of jagged shards. Sion, confident in his move, shouts that Jang is about to get pretty scratched up. But just as Sion believes he has gained the upper hand, a chilling laugh fills the air. To Sion's shock, Jang's voice cuts through the moment, mocking him. Sitting in the broken window frame, Jang holds onto the ledge, grinning as he asks if Sion really thought he could throw him out of the building. His near fall turns into a display of control as he effortlessly saves himself from being tossed out, leaving Sion astonished at his resilience. Jang Hyun steps into the classroom, his foot grinding against the debris scattered across the floor, the sound sharp and unsettling. Hunched over, his figure looms in the dim light as he lets out a low, unsettling laugh. His eyes, mere white slits shrouded in shadow, give him a predatory air as he dismisses any notion that Sion is special. As Sion tries to respond, confusion flickering in his voice, Jang moves with sudden, terrifying speed. His hand slams into Sion's face, the impact powerful and brutal, sending Sion flying backward. The force of the push is immense, propelling Sion across the room as if he were weightless. Jang's sinister smile remains, his head still bowed, his expression twisted in a dark amusement. Muttering to himself, he reprimands his own actions, reminding himself that Noel had ordered him to bring Sion back alive, not break him. Jang strides forward and roughly grabs Sion by the hair, yanking him up with a mocking sneer etched across his face. His voice dripping with cruel sarcasm, he taunts Sion, feigning concern as he wonders aloud if he had nearly killed him by mistake. As the night rain softly drums against the metal roof of the van, Mari sits calmly, even with Rachel gripping a fistful of her hair. Her lips curl into an unsettling smile, despite the tense situation. Mari's voice is steady as she reassures Rachel, suggesting that she could still join them if she cooperates. Rachel, fueled by anger, presses the cold barrel of her gun under Mari's chin, her frustration evident in her eyes. She snaps at Mari, asking if she truly understands the gravity of her situation. Mari, undeterred and unnervingly calm, counters that it's Rachel who doesn't understand. Her words are deliberate as she mentions that he will arrive soon. The leader of Barefoot, Igor Medvedev, known as Bare Knuckles. As she speaks, Igor's private jet cuts through the stormy skies above, a looming presence. Mari's cold laughter follows as she claims that even Rachel stands no chance against Barefoot's strongest member, Igor. Before she can finish her taunt, a crackling voice comes through the radio, apologizing with grim news. Igor won't be coming. The words hang in the air, heavy with finality. Above them, the private jet carrying Igor is consumed by a massive explosion, erupting into a fiery orange ball. Splintered debris scatters through the sky, the once imposing aircraft reduced to a burning wreck in an instant. As Rachel presses her hand to her ear, her expression tightens with concern, trying to focus on the unsettling radio message. The voice continues, cold and detached, suggesting that Igor is likely at the bottom of the sea by now. Across from her, Mari's confident demeanor cracks, her face showing disbelief and shock as the voice apologizes for raising her expectations. Stunned, Mari struggles to form a response, her words caught in her throat. Meanwhile, Rachel, still processing the gravity of the situation, suddenly freezes, recognizing the voice on the other end of the line. The voice, now more familiar, greets Rachel, speaking through an ornate telephone. It belongs to the man who had once attacked Dead Mansion. His long gray hair flows freely as he leans back casually, draped in a black trench coat over a black turtleneck and white trousers. With a composed yet mocking tone, he asks Rachel how she has been, lounging comfortably against the director's desk. He remarks that he had wanted to meet her in person, but unfortunately, he has matters to attend to elsewhere. Rachel, her voice rising with panic, calls out his name, Noel, desperately questioning how he is using the director's phone line. With a sly glance, Noel chuckles, turning his head slightly as he responds. His eyes gleam as he says he is with the director right now. The camera shifts to reveal the grim scene. The director kneeling on the floor, stripped to his underwear, his back drenched in blood pooling beneath him. His hands lay motionless, facing upward, the man once commanding now reduced to a broken shell. Noel's voice over the radio further unnerves both Rachel and Mari. He taunts them, saying the director isn't exactly in a position to speak, triggering waves of panic between the two women. Desperate, Mari struggles against her restraints, shouting into the earpiece, demanding answers. Her voice cracks as she reminds Noel of his promise that the director would be safe. Noel, now tying his long hair into a loose bun, settles into his seat. His smile grows darker, more sinister, as he rubs the back of his neck. His voice takes on a mocking tone as he apologizes, revealing that he had lied to her all along. His real objective, he declares with satisfaction, was the destruction of Dead Mansion from the very start. As the director, once a figure of grandeur, sits defeated and bleeding, Noel, with a cruel grin, turns his attention back to Mari. He asks her if the director shouldn't disappear as well, given his plans to bring down Dead Mansion entirely. The room falls into a heavy silence as Noel thanks Mari, his voice laced with condescension, for helping him achieve his goal. Mari, speechless and shattered, can do nothing but listen. As Beluga bickers heatedly with his subordinate, tensions escalate, while Noel, ever the puppet master, muses aloud. He praises the cleverness of Mari, noting how she masterfully diverted attention by instigating conflict with Barefoot, a strategy so cunning it seemed unimaginable. As Vincent, irritated, argues with a Dead Mansion child, frustrated by the loss of contact with their director, Noel continues his monologue. He explains that due to the brewing conflict, most of the monks had shifted focus towards Barefoot, giving him the perfect opportunity to dismantle Dead Mansion. With this grim revelation settling in, both Beluga and Vincent attempt to process the gravity of the situation. Their leaders, now out of contact, were probably already suspecting betrayal. The room thickens with mistrust as the two men, slowly realizing they might be at the center of a trap, rise to their feet. Both now tense and defensive, they prepare for the worst. In an instant, the tension explodes. Beluga, gripping his pistol, and Vincent, wielding a small knife, launch themselves at each other, ready to kill, each cursing the other's organization for the chaos that had unfolded. Beluga presses the gun to Vincent's chin, and with a dangerously low voice, Vincent dares him to settle things once and for all. Beluga, with a shark-like grin, accepts the challenge, his tone dripping with menace as the spark of conflict ignites amidst the icy Russian fields. Violence hovers in the air, ready to erupt. But before blood can be spilled, the sharp, authoritative sound of footsteps echoes through the cold halls of Barefoot's headquarters. The distinct clack of polished Oxford shoes commands attention. A voice, heavy with authority, cuts through the hostility, ordering them to stop immediately. A hulking figure strides into view, her long blonde hair draped over her broad shoulders, and a presence that demands respect. Both Beluga and Vincent freeze, their eyes drawn to the imposing figure of Alexander Sophia. Her chiseled, stone-like features and crossed arms exude a cold, calculated control. Dressed in a black suit with a sharp red tie, Alexander steps forward, her gaze steely as she reminds them of the directives from the House of Alexander. Her words carry the weight of a war hero's command. Vincent's expression shifts from rage to calm as he disengages from his standoff with Beluga. Beluga, too, stops, his lips curling into a smile, clearly surprised that Alexander herself had stepped in to intervene. Alexander, unyielding, declares that if either of them had acted willingly in this confrontation, it would be unforgivable. She coolly demands they lay down their weapons, reminding them that they stand in the presence of a lady, a war hero no less. The fierce momentum of battle dissipates under her commanding presence, the room quiet, the spark of violence extinguished, at least for now.